Welcome everybody. This is Bill Griffith and this is oil painting for fun, relaxing, and creating. And if you just want a little bit of peace in your life, this is where to be. If you're just now joining us, this is basically a new series of painting on putting together a portrait painting. As we did in the first, I do want to take it slow, basic steps, and so you can learn. Now, if you missed the first series, which I referred to, is basically on the YouTube, and it's deals with still life, and then we also do some wildlife, all of which will kind of get you through step by step on how to learn to oil paint. As I said, today we're going to start with a portrait, and we should have a lot of fun putting it together. So let's get started. Okay, today I'm going to try to start a portrait of a good friend of mine, Steve. I think you can see the picture over here. If not, I'll pull it over. Basically a longtime friend and rancher here in Texas, and I really like the looks of his face and contour and everything else. Very interesting, the shadows and this type. When you do a portrait, you want to try and get some shadows into it primarily so that you can get some depth into it, because it's not flat. You want to make sure it's three-dimensional, and shadows really help that. So that's why I selected this particular photograph. Now, to move your favorite photograph, or if you're using a live in a live set studio with a model, either way, you got to get the sketch or the photograph over onto your canvas, and there's lots of different ways of doing that. With more practice, you'll be able to just sketch it out and start. There are things that will project your photograph up onto the canvas that you can kind of trace. If you make a large enough photograph, you could actually put charcoal on the back and kind of run your brush over the top, this type of thing, to get your details. But what I normally like to do is start the sketch, and then I do stop and use a pair of what they call calipers that I just basically measure different parts on the photograph and my sketch to make sure my proportions are right. So I'm going to start like I do all. Basically, it's just a circle, close as I can. Now, placement of the circle in a portrait, again, is totally up to you. And this is my center. I did some measurement before I even started. This is a 30 by 40 canvas, and I found the center of it. And so I'm basically putting the center in my profile of my portrait, right dead center on it. Now, there's lots of different opinions on that. You might want to put it in one of the corners. You might put your nose there. I mean, there's all kinds of things. But again, as I said in the first video, it's really what you like to do. Now, typically your eyes are sitting just about dead center on your line. So somewhere in there is going to be my eyes. And then you're going to have kind of a jaw. So I'm going to come down here a little bit, drop his jaw in here, and I'll put the photograph up here, back up a minute. And all I'm doing is kind of placing him on the canvas right now. There's his neck over here, jaw coming down. Now all of this can be changed. If you get into it and you say, hey, that just doesn't look like him. So you start there. Now, you want to center it. In this particular case, the photograph is he's turned a little to the left. So my center line for my facial features will be going off in that direction. And his cowboy hat comes down right above his eyes, so somewhere in here, and it goes across his ears, comes around now again. This is strictly sketching, and I can come back later and correct whatever I don't like. Hat comes through here. The crown of the hat is up a lot higher than the top of his skull here. So we're going to put that up there pretty high. And again, I may adjust this many times during the painting. Primarily, I would just want to get started so I've got something I can work with. So I've roughed in his hat. Now before I get too much further, I'll put this over here so you can kind of see it. I'm going to measure his proportions. Now I already set this for the width of his face here, right at his ears, right at his ear and eyes, and put it up here. Looks like I'm pretty close. Going from his eyes down to the lower chin. It's coming down this way, so right off the bat I see I got to come down a little more, a little deeper chin than I thought. Again, this will be coming down here. Kind of give it the width of his chin. Okay, we're good there. So the layout of the face is the skull and the jawline, okay. And if I want to go ahead and do the shirt, or at least the neck of the shirt, I could do that. And that's way down in here somewhere. So his, yeah, let me see. The shirt's coming down through here like this. Back over here. Okay, looking at that, I'm sitting here right now and it looks like the whole face is just a little low on the canvas. Do I want to leave it that way, or do I want to stop and bring the skull up a little bit? Facial features. The way it's looking right now, I think I want to come up about an inch, maybe 2 inches higher, which will throw all of this up higher. And again, I can certainly correct it. Bring it up a little more. Not quite so low on the page, on the canvas. So we're down. So I didn't do much, but I did a little bit, and it brought it all up a little bit. His ears sitting over here. Let me put a little more paint on it. And all I'm using is a little titanium white, just primarily to kind of sketch it out right now. Now I could use any color I wanted to, just whatever shows up good enough for you. So here's the jawline coming down now. Somewhere in this area. Shoulders going off this way. I think the shoulder's a little flatter this side. Now this right here seems like it's a little short, so I'm going to put my calipers on it again. Sure enough, it's way over here somewhere. So I'm going to bring that on down. So that's going to really change some things here for me. Again, this is over here. That hat is, or Stetson, is kind of dictating some higher on this canvas, and actually will probably correct some of the optical issues I had when I looked at it the first time. So these coming down through here. Again, let's see how high this is setting up. Oh, we're pretty good on height. one thing you know, it sits on his head, so these areas here need to kind of align with the skull underneath. In this particular case, here's the top of his Stetson coming down through here, and this is coming down through here. So I've got it kind of laid out. As far as the location on the canvas, it's beginning to look like it's in the right place. Now I need to put in some eyes and the mouth and get those situated. So I'm going to go with my calipers again, and it looks like my nose is sitting right about in there. This caliper's a little loose right now. So I've really got the caliper set at almost the max. Okay, there's the mouth and his eyes. His head's kind of dipping down a little bit. So the eyes are going to be sitting here. Right in here. And that kind of goes good with my ears, my hat. Everything seems like it's lining up good. Here's the nose. It's coming over here a little further. Mouth. Interesting. I don't want to get too hung up on details immediately. Right now I'm just more interested in kind of laying it out. Right across here. All right. I'm going to kind of situate his eyes a little better, and they're a little lower, so they're going to be sitting right in here somewhere. Remember, his profile is coming down through here, so the center of that nose is going to be over here. Now, if I wasn't planning on letting this white dry a little bit, I'd be a little concerned that it would interfere with my paint when I started to add color to it. Titanium white does not tend to be transparent, and so you gotta kind of watch what you're doing with it, because it will dominate or change your tones if you're not careful. Ear comes down in here a little further. Interesting shadows. He's got eyeglasses on, so I will have to allow for those when I start closing in. Okay, I got it kind of laid out. What I want to do now is add in the dark tones. Kind of start with shadows. Once I get the shadows, basically just three different, the dark tone, a mid-tone, and a light tone, then I'll stop and let it all dry. And all I'm going to use here is a little burnt sienna mixed with a little bit of, could either be black or it could be ultramarine blue. But let's go ahead and put this in here, kind of darken up his eyes. There's a shadow sitting up here of the hat. Stetson. Keep up with my proper Western terms here. He's sitting in there. Now this side of the hat, you know, I'm assuming the sunlight is kind of coming in through there, but if you notice the photograph, it seems like there's several light sources, so we're kind of bouncing around, and that's common. So I don't want to get too carried away with the depth of these shadows. Whether they're too dark or too light. But I do want to make sure I'm using the tones that I can to emphasize different shapes. Now, for you all watching this, you might be saying, oh, wait a minute, you know, you should be working more detail in here. No, this is a sketch. Right now, I'm just trying to lay it out to where I'm happy with how the figure is sitting. And then I'll come back to it. Here's kind of here. The dark tones in there. Not worried about all the black. Again, all of this is going to dry and I can just move on. Got a collar coming up through here. On the face, I don't want to use too much of the black tones. I want to kind of stay with the burnt sienna, because then it'll show through when I start putting together the face. This little headband in here, this kind of frame in and keep it all in perspective for me as I'm moving on. Glasses in there. Eyeglasses tend to add to your, create some shadowings that can be confusing. So you got to kind of watch it a little bit. But at the same time, they add some mystery to everything. I'm going to darken this just a little bit on the, add some depth to his face here. So So I'm gonna come down through here, and that's probably too dark. But I want to make sure his face is definitely three-dimensional. And then I'm going to kind of create a little middle tone here. Then I'm just playing with ivory black, burnt sienna, and titanium white. Like that. Really, as we talked about in the first couple of videos, what I'm doing right now is more than anything else just blocking in my form. If I don't like it, I can come back later and work on it some more. And I will. This is the lighter side, light tones over in here. This side facing the light. So I want to bring that out just a little bit. Ooh, that's too much white, but for my sketch, I'm going to leave it. Most important thing in I think, in the portrait is to maintain the perspective that has three dimensions, that it's not flat. A lot of portraits come across as being flat. The face is not flat. His jaw comes down through here. I like this little dip here. You can see, or at least I think I can see, the years of hard work on the ranch. Steve also has an extensive military career, so there's some of that showing through too. some of this I don't really need at this point in the painting. I'm just, more than anything else, kind of establishing boundaries so that when I come in and start working on shirts and all the other stuff, I don't go a little too far with what I'm doing. And we'll do that in the next, we'll start working on that in the next videos. It's got a very mottled face too. That's why I'm doing a lot of tone changing in here. Eyes I'm not worried about yet. We'll get there. Shoulder right in this area because it is facing this sunlight. Or not sunlight, room light. Gonna be bright. Put his mustache in here just to maintain the dimensions here. Not too concerned about the hat right now. We'll surely be able to come back, but I think I am going to put it up just so I can kind of get a tone reference. Make sure I'm happy with it when I step back away from the canvas on the proportions. In this particular case, I'm just using a little titanium white again and a little yellow, or the yellow tone in it. If you're following this particular photograph and the way I'm painting it, just step by step, all I'm doing is blocking in again like we talked about before. And if you're using your own photograph, maybe your loved one or something else like that, it's basically the same steps. Just kind of get your proportions down, make sure your nose and the eyes and the mouth and all the other things seem like they're in the right place for you. If they're not, you can just go back and work on them some more. That's what I love oil paints. There's nothing permanent about it as far as if you want to come back the next morning. Typically they're still a little moist, so you can continue to do the wet on wet. Now if you're dealing with like acrylics, this type of thing, you may be limited on that because they dry so fast. But that's totally up to you on what medium you want to use. I'm going to put his eyes in here just a little bit to keep them going the direction that I want. And like I said, we got some eyeglasses there we're going to have to work around. We can do that. The one area I wanted to look at is maybe the shadows right in here, shadows from the hat, because you do have light coming down through here. Now the thing about this particular painting though is if you look at the photograph, there's light coming in from a lot of different directions. So there's a lot of different possibilities on the light. So it may be something that we just have to continue to work on. Now this area right in here, I'll have to wait and correct because this comes in a little more, I think, than what I've got in that painting. But we'll come back to that. And I think I'm at a point now that I want to stop. I might just basically let it sit, take a few more looks at it and see what I think, and might come back and put the calipers on it again, do another couple of measurements, make sure everything's looking good, and then we can get down to more serious painting or whatever. Now, as you can see, I'm adding a little bit of burnt sienna back in there and make it a little redder. Hey, if you ever been out on the ranch, you know your skin's not lily white. You get a lot of sun. So I want to make sure I keep it in a tone that reflects the outdoors here. Okay, I could sit here all afternoon, just keep looking away at it, but I think I need to stop. Like I said, I'm going to be coming back with some calipers just to make sure I'm happy with it. And you can continue working on yours if you got a few more things to go on it today. But we're at a point that I think I'm going to stop and come back to it probably the next couple of days after it dries just a little bit, work on it some more, and go from there. So if you enjoyed this part of the video, please indicate a like, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because the only way you're going to keep up with it is to continue the process of practice, and learning some of the stuff that we're talking about. Now, until then, you have a blessed day, and I will see you later.